Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2 is coming out this year, and I think we already know the plot of it. At least I have a pretty good idea. So slices, put on your aprons, and let's bake ourselves a theory. First, let's gather our ingredients. We'll start by going over everything we know from the Help Wanted 2 teaser that we got on the PlayStation Showcase. Because although that teaser doesn't seem like it gives us much, there's actually a lot to work with. Also, happy Pride. We'll mix these ingredients later when we start theorizing, but for now let's just go over everything that seems important from this trailer. The dialogue here in general isn't anything super groundbreaking, but there are a few lines that stick out.
Welcome back for another week of career fulfillment. We know how challenging it can be to find a place where you feel that you truly belong, that you did an adequate enough job the first time around to have you back.
As far as important visuals go, obviously the fact that this is sister location could hold meaning. Not only that, but since this is an exact one-to-one replica of the sister location elevator, any differences are inherently important. They chose to change these things. What did they change? Well, they changed both posters and added one thing. Starting with the posters, the top right one went from Ballora saying dance to Circus Baby holding 2 scoops, the same amount of ice cream she held to Elizabeth in the minigame, saying stay cool. The bottom left one, which was Circus Baby and a Biddy Bab saying celebrate, now says let's play with Bon Bon and Bonette. It's hard to see with the size of this poster, and I brightened it up and I still couldn't quite tell, but either Bon Bon is being hit by something downward or is jumping up into like a Super Mario-esque block. It's hard to tell. Finally, they added one thing, this Among Us wireboard in the bottom right corner. A bunch of theorists immediately pointed out that it is identical to the one we see in Ruin, at least in shape and layout. That seems important, we'll mark that down. It's essentially telling us that these games are connected in some way. Finally, the elevator opens and we hear a sort of hissing sound. Now this could just be pistons moving or something, but to me, it sounds like shushing, which could either be Glitch Trap, Lefty, or someone else. Finally, we get jump scared by Ballora and the trailer ends. I know that seems short, but believe me when I say there's a lot here to work with. Also, I'm going to be talking about Ruin for sure, but we've gone over that trailer so much. I'm sure you've seen it. Like, I've made 3 videos on just the one trailer. But in case you haven't seen the Ruin trailer, I will be going over parts of it on a need-to-know basis, so don't worry, I won't leave you behind. So without any further ado, let's mix our ingredients and see what kind of theories start to form. My first immediate thought is that we have a time frame for this game. Well, almost. You see, the "you did an adequate job the last time" and "welcome back for another week" lines imply that not only have we been here before, we've been here for an entire week, and this is happening soon after. Oh geez. De-edit. For those who don't know, I record the live action and then the green screen bit. So this is the end of all those brushes. Look at that big ass patch of cat fur, my god. While this could be implying that this game takes place soon after Help Wanted, I hesitate, mainly because Help Wanted isn't split up in any way to imply that it takes place over the course of a week. Frankly, we have no idea how long Help Wanted takes as a game. However, Sister Location does take place over a week. This almost makes me feel like this dialogue is specifically talking about returning to Sister Location after the events of the game Sister Location, but that doesn't hold up either because of the Ballora jump scare. Obviously, the events of Sister Location haven't taken place yet, because if they had, Ballora would be gone. I mean, she was the first one to begin the Ennard conglomerate. So I feel like this jump scare is a solid confirmation that this iteration of the Sister Location bunker is specific to Help Wanted 2, not actually going to the Sister Location bunker. But going back to if these voice lines are talking about Help Wanted 2, it does make a little more sense. "You ain't seen nothing yet" backs up Help Wanted 2, because if we're talking about Sister Location, the only one who's been there for a full week we know of is Michael, and he's seen everything. In fact, he's probably seen too much. Really, at this point, the only thing that Michael Afton hasn't seen is roughly 76.5% of my viewers pressing the subscribe button, because it really helps, thank you. Alright, so we've established that we're pretty sure the voice lines are talking about Help Wanted 2 itself, not Sister Location. So if we're just talking about another VR game, how does that affect the lore? Well, let's look at the lore and context of Help Wanted 1 to see if it can imply anything for us. For those of you who don't know, on the surface, Help Wanted 1 is a pretty bog standard VR collection of Five Nights at Freddy's. It has near full recreations of FNAF 1, 2, and 3, a lot of the parts of FNAF 4, some parts of Sister Location, and then some original levels afterwards. But once you start looking for hints and Easter eggs, you piece together that the underlying plot of this game is people at a VR development game making a game in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe about the Fazbear Entertainment franchise to kind of make up for some bad publicity. All the while, there's a virus within Help Wanted taking over the minds of some of the testers. By the end of it, Vanny has been created within the mind of Vanessa, and her and Glitchtrap are revving up for Security Breach to take over the Pizzaplex. All this to say, if Help Wanted 2 takes place immediately after Help Wanted, it doesn't seem immediately clear why there's any reason for it to exist. Help Wanted to Security Breach is a straight line. Not only that, but we've already covered most of the FNAF games. As far as uncharted territory for a new VR sequel, we realistically just have FNAF 6, Ultimate Custom Night, which is already a collection game, and Security Breach. So why or when does this game take place? Well, actually, the deeper you go into it with context, the more it starts to make sense. Personally, I think there are two very clear possibilities for the lore of Help Wanted 2. It's deciding which one seems most likely. And I lean towards one, so let's start with the one that I think is less likely. For those who aren't reading any books that are coming out now, first off, you really should. There's some really good lore dumps in there, and if you can't purchase them for location or price sake, you can get summaries of them that are pretty good on the wiki. Regardless, one of the important stories we'll be talking about today is GGY. There's a lot of really big lore dumps in this story, but the most important thing for today's theory is that it pretty much confirms Gregory to be Patient 46, and was most likely taken over by Glitchtrap in a similar method to Vanessa. So if Gregory was overtaken in a similar way to Vanessa, then a similar game makes a lot of sense. So the first possibility is that Gregory is going to be the player in Help Wanted 2, and we're seeing a sort of prequel to Security Breach where Glitchtrap is slowly taking over the mind of Gregory. As far as evidence that supports this, there's really one key piece, because a lot of this theory is mostly backed up by logic statements, not necessarily evidence. The one piece of evidence that does corroborate it is that first line in the teaser, "Welcome back for another week." This implies that this is soon after the first Help Wanted, and Help Wanted's last Easter egg has us putting on the Vanny mask and holding the Glitchtrap plushie to talk to Glitchtrap. We hear Vanessa say, "I will be ready and I won't let you down." Then later on a Scott Games teaser for Security Breach, she echoes that sentiment. When her and Glitchtrap have the conversation, "Have you selected one?" "I have." They were looking for a child to possess right at the end of Help Wanted. So if Help Wanted 2 takes place immediately after, this lines up with Gregory. But even with the evidence we have for this theory, I feel like there's more evidence against this theory. First up, most prominently, a theory by fellow FNAF tuber FNAF, go subscribe to him, he's really cool, suggested that it was actually Glitchtrap using the Balloon World arcade machines that took over the mind of Gregory. And I think that adds up and makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of really compelling evidence for it as well, linked to the full video there. But if that's true, then Help Wanted 2 couldn't be the catalyst that put Glitchtrap's virus into Gregory's mind. That would have been the Balloon World arcade machine. But even more than just the evidence against the theory, think about the timing here. Once Ruin comes out, presumably we'll be done with Security Breach and ready for the next game. Ideally, Ruin will give us a bit more information about Gregory, and because of the books, we already know how we got from Help Wanted to Security Breach. So to release another game, a brand new game, the only full new game this year, at the end of the year in the prime spot to release it, just to go over lore that we pretty much already know, that's a prequel to your last game, feels weird. Help Wanted 2 feels like it will be a continuation of the story. But if that's the case, then what would Help Wanted 2 cover? How would there be enough content to justify its creation, and who would we be playing as? Well, I think I have an answer for that, but we'll have to pop our mixture into the oven to see what kind of horrors rise. I think Help Wanted 2 is being released sequentially in the timeline, because I think this game will be the ultimate fate of our brand new protagonist, Cassie, all thanks to our brand new antagonist, the Mimic. Mimic sweep! For those who don't read the FNAF books for the myriad of valid reasons why not to, the most recent one had a story that gave us more information on the epilogue's villain, the Mimic. Essentially, very boiled down basic to get to the point here. A program was created with one primary directive: copy what it sees and recreate it. It was then put into an endoskeleton and shortly after, brutalized and infused with agony. Fazbear got their hands on it, and at some point it's implied that it maybe saw William do a child murder. We're not 100% sure, but we do know that it's incredibly likely that this program, Mimic 1, is the program that eventually turned into Glitchtrap in Help Wanted. So this Glitchtrap virus isn't exactly William's agony taken form, but rather a program tainted by agony that's learned from William and is now being put in the SparkNotes highlights version of every bad thing William and Fazbear has ever done. That's why it just recreates and keeps creating these terrible things. It's just seeing what it knows and recreating it. We can even see the ultimate expression of this in the last level of Help Wanted, Pizza Party. Mimic 1 is literally recreating William taking a kid into the back and stuffing them into an animatronic suit. And it's doing this using copied and rehashed versions of environments we've already been in. This section screams that Glitch Trap is Mimic 1. It just fits so perfectly. And now, because of Help Wanted and Security Breach, we know that Mimic 1 is trying to make human slaves to do something, most likely rematerialize into the real world. It does this with Vanessa and again with Gregory. So if we are to believe that Glitch Trap and by extension Burn Trap are at least part of Mimic 1, what does that tell us? Well, in the epilogues of Tales from the Pizzaplex, multiple times now, the Mimic tries to lure teens into a trap so it can kill it by talking over the radio system and pretending to be a child trapped in the Pizzaplex. And what do we get throughout the entire Security Breach Ruin trailer?
I'm trapped here at the Pizzaplex, or what's left of it.
The exact same trap. This even goes back to the original poster where we get this image of Gregory on a digital background with digital text saying "help me." This is literally a digital recreation of Gregory luring someone in. So the question is, if Cassie is being led into a trap, what's the goal? Why bother capturing this random girl? Well, Help Wanted 2. Bake with me for a second. No matter what ending is canon and leads us into ruin, at least one of Burn Trap's minions are out of the picture. Either Gregory escapes, or Gregory and Vanny escape or dies. He's very low on human slaves and needs more. So when Cassie eventually falls victim to the trap we play out in Ruin, he needs to start the process to take over her mind. What better than locking her into a VR game like he did with Vanessa, one made by the Mimic, welcoming the user back for more FNAF. And this leads us into what kind of gameplay we can expect to see here. Obviously, we'll get some sections of FNAF 6, possibly some additional ones from Sister Location, and even some from Security Breach. But I think there's going to be an emphasis on more original type games like the Vent Repair and things like that. Part of the reason I think this is because of the huge amount of recreated rooms from Help Wanted in the Security Breach Pizzaplex. The Mimic was already mimicking levels from Help Wanted, so why wouldn't it be creating more, enhancing this digital prison of Fazbear, all to create an enhanced mind-wiping program? And at the end of it, we'll have one more human slave in Afton's clutches. And if you want to know even more on why I'm so certain that Ruin is a trap and Cassie is going to lose, go ahead and watch that video all about that topic. For now, a huge shout out to the Toasted Slices, the best channel members around, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, Slices.